Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Four Corners Softball Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Parmley, joined once again by Karen Johns. Karen is a world traveler at this stage of things. She is going to faraway softball tournaments, going to faraway visits with family. She's just all over the place because everybody loves seeing her. But Karen, how you doing today?
I am doing great. It's good to be with you again this week, Kyle. All about softball.
All about softball, and that sounds great to me. I love to hear that. Karen got to see some incredible softball in Clearwater last week, and we're going to talk about that a little while later on in this podcast. We've got a lot of stuff to hit on for you. All the seasons are in full swing. College, high school, we're rolling. Whether you're ready for it or not, there's plenty to talk about. And leading off on this episode, we're recording this on a Thursday, which last night, Wednesday, February the 22nd, Alabama head coach Patrick Murphy earned his 1,200th career win in a 3-2 comeback win over Samford. Alabama scored 2 runs in the 6th to get the win, so they did it in dramatic fashion. A couple of Alabama kids do the job. Jayla Torrance from Dothan got the win in the circle, and then Hewitt Trustful star Kinley Cahalan, who's a freshman at Bama, got the go-ahead hit last night. Fun fact on this, Murphy is now the 9th head coach in NCAA history, like Division I NCAA history, to win 1,200 games at a singular D1 institution. And he's the only one to win 1,000 at an SEC institution. So really, really cool accomplishment for Murph. And the accomplishments are going to keep coming as far as I can tell.
Murph has done such a great job. I was there the night he won his first game in that stadium. We opened up against UAB, didn't even have outfield padding or permanent fencing set up yet. But I remember that night, it was the same grueling type of win because there was so much energy, so much excitement. Our kids are turning around. The band was there. Nobody was paying attention to the game, and we squeaked out a 1-0 win against UAB. And then last night, we all knew it was going to be his 1,200th win. And I'm watching on my phone while I'm working the Auburn men's basketball game with the Alabama softball game on my iPad, which was kind of interesting, with the students behind me like, hey, what are you watching that game for? Yep. And I told them I was a Samford fan. Anyway, which I am too, but another grueling one. But, sometimes you know how that is. It's like when you're going for that, every kid on that team knew and they wanted that win so bad. So I think the struggle was real for them. But, of course, Kinley comes through again, as she always does in the clutch. So super happy for him. He's worked so hard to build that program. And, of course, he's got 1,200 wins. Of course he does.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable when you think about that, especially in today's age, when there's so much, people just move around a lot more than they used to have that many wins at one place and to be able to be there for 27 years is a remarkable accomplishment. And especially to have a program at such a high level still. You see a lot of times when things get stale after 5 or 10 years, but not there. They've still got it going.
Yeah, they are always contenders, and year in and year out. And I know last year was kind of an abnormal situation for them, not advancing to the super regionals, but they're back. Their depth looks good. They're very athletic. And the big thing now is just developing that second pitching slot, and they should have a fine year again. Yeah,
no doubt. So we'll get to see Alabama and Coach Murphy add a few more wins to that docket this year, I'm sure. I want to take a second to tell you guys about Scouttown Sports. We're proud that they are partnering with us in the Four Corners podcast. Scouttown's got a big summer for you. If you haven't met the guys, Mark Purvis and Matt Jones do an outstanding job with that organization and their tournaments. They've got 3 tournaments this year, this summer, that they would love for your travel teams to be a part of. You've got the USA Scouttown Showcase May 26th through 28th in Montgomery. Scouttown Showcase June 30th through July 2nd in Birmingham, and then the Scouttown Capital City Showcase July 28th through 30th in Montgomery. If you want to sign your team up or get more information on one of those tournaments, you can visit them on Facebook. Scouttown Sports, or you can check out their website, scouttown.sportengine.com. We'll have that website at the bottom of the screen here. Great tournaments to be a part of. 6 innings, no time limits. They do a great job with those games, and they're a lot of fun. So check them out if you need somewhere to play this summer. And with that being said, let's go ahead and bring on our guest this week on the Four Corners Pod. It's UAB head coach AJ Daugherty. AJ's in his first year as the head coach at UAB, coming to UAB from Wallace State, where he had a 6-year run there, highly successful. He's done it at all levels, small high school, big high school, and now Division I college. So we're looking forward to talk to AJ, and let's do that right now. All right, today on the Four Corners Softball Pod, we are joined by UAB softball coach AJ Daugherty. AJ, we are thrilled to have you on today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm very grateful to be on here. I think this is going to be great. I know this is one of the first couple of episodes, so I'm thankful to have been asked to be a part of that, and look forward to watching this thing grow. And also, before we start, just want to say I appreciate everything you guys are doing for our sport and have done over the years. I've watched our sport grow so much, and I think both of y'all have had a tremendous amount of impact on that. So thank you for that. Yeah,
no, we really appreciate that. And yeah, second episode, and we've already got AJ on, so big time for us too there. Yeah. Today's interview is being brought to you by AJ Doherty Softball Camps. I have had the pleasure of getting to be up close with some of AJ's camps and know that they're really well done. They're really put together nicely, and it's not something where you're going to send a kid out there and they're just going to go piddle around for a few hours. So AJ, if you want to share a little bit more, you got summer dates coming out soon. What's kind of an update on how somebody or somebody's kid can get involved in the camps?
Yeah, we're looking forward to this summer. You know, we sort of got tossed into it late summer this go round, and then, trying to get our feet under us for September 1 recruiting and stuff. We just sort of did the best we could with the fall camps. And so, this summer will be our first real go at it, having it planned out the way we'd like and stuff. So over the next couple of weeks, if you'll keep an eye on AJDoughertySoftballCamps.com, you'll see a couple of our events. We're going to do 2 different multi-day summer camps. We'll do that in conjunction with the Thunderbolts 5-star. We'll do it sort of around those dates to make it convenient for people coming in from out of town. We'll also do a team camp towards the end of June for high school or travel ball teams that want to come get some games in. And then we'll do a couple of prospect camps as we tiptoe closer to school starting back. So summer full of opportunities to get in front of our staff, and hopefully we could help you pick up a few things or be seen. And so looking forward to that. If you'll keep an eye on AJDoughertySoftballCamps.com, I think you'll find something that'll fit your needs or give you an opportunity to get on our campus and get to know our coaches. All
right, sounds great. Well, first thing I want to get to, just kind of the season is off and running here at UAB. So is it easier, more difficult now that you've had the off-season transition and getting things going? Is it better now that actual games have begun?
Yeah, I think we were all sort of sick of practice. I think that's probably true of every program around the country. At some point, you're just ready to see someone in a different colored uniform and get out there and see where your gaps are and where you need to improve against someone else. You can only inter squad so much and go live so much and can only get so much out of that. And so I'm glad to kind of get it going and see where we stack up and have some things exposed at times that we really need to improve on. And so it is off and running. We got back not too bad late last night, but later in the evening yesterday, and just trying to get our legs back under us and looking forward to another big weekend.
Yeah, well, you are the perfect person to have on this podcast because our goal is to cover softball in the state of Alabama. And you've been in the state of Alabama forever, have coached it at many different levels. So just kind of tell me, after, you've had the success over several years at Wallace State, what was it about the UAB job that was appealing to you? Because I know you've probably had several opportunities over the years. but what made UAB the right one for you?
Well, I'm a competitor, and competitors want to compete at the highest level. And that's sort of where my mind was when the opportunity presented itself to me. And yes, we had a really good thing going at Wallace, and we felt pretty confident it was going to continue to go for a pretty long time, as long as we kept doing the things we needed to do. And I'm a challenge oriented person. I thrive on, situations that may not be ideal when you first get there, but I'm just driven and wired to, go into situations, go into programs, and try to put our fingerprints on it and leave it better than we found it. And so, Wallace was a great job, and I really enjoyed working there, and I worked with great people, and we had worked really hard to sort of get it where it was when we stepped away. But when UAB came calling, I'm an in-state guy. It was right down the road. I didn't have to move my family. My family's very happy where we live. It's a commutable job. Now, it's quite a commute, but it's a commutable job. And, really enjoy getting to meet the administration here and their vision for our transition into the American Athletic Conference this coming year. And so that's exciting. There's a lot of change happening on our campus anyway. And so I just felt like it was the right move, and it was something that I didn't feel like I could say no to and not regret down the road not giving it a shot. So here we are, and I'm happy with it. We certainly have things we need to get better at and improve, but that's why we're here, and that's what we're working at every day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what was AJ Dougherty's introduction to the game of softball?
Now, this part of it is quite entertaining. So I had no intentions of getting into softball. I had not watched a softball game from first pitch to last pitch until the first time I coached in one. Just to be very frank with you, I came from a very rural community that had just recently transitioned from slow pitch to fast pitch. And because I played softball in the spring, I played baseball in the spring, I didn't get to go watch our softball team play a lot in my high school days. We didn't have a field on our campus for girls softball. And so, it wasn't as convenient as, hey, school ends, I'm going to walk over here and watch our softball team. So I got to Shelton State as a freshman and was taking classes there. And as that first year wrapped up, my freshman year, my high school baseball coach called me and said, hey, my brother was just named the head softball coach at Shelton State. They do not have a paid assistant position. He's going to be looking for some student help. And I, out of a lot of respect for him, did not laugh in his face because I had no intentions of being associated with softball. I didn't know anything about it. And to be honest with you, didn't care to. At the time, I had set my sights on being a baseball coach. I was going to teach social studies, and I was going to be a high school baseball coach. And so, he basically explained to me that it didn't matter if my experience was in chess, that having collegiate coaching experience on my resume would be a big benefit to me, and I at least needed to go meet with his brother about the opportunity. So I did, and the guy talked me into it. His name's John Garris. He's now on the staff at Maryland. And I learned so much from John and learned so much from that. And, like I said, the first entire softball game I saw, I coached first base in. And so, kind of an interesting, kind of fell backwards into it, and the rest is history. Here I am. That was in probably 2006, I think. And so, here we are in 2023.
Yeah. It's always interesting for me to hear how people get into it, because especially guys like you grew up playing baseball, and then you have to fall into it somehow, and it's usually not on purpose.
No, but it is addicting. And how many times do you hear that and it ends with, but wow. Mm-hmm. Once I got a taste of it and was exposed to it and was around it, I never looked back, and I didn't. There was a year in my coaching career that I did go back and was an assistant baseball coach in a kind of a weird transitional situation. in my career, and enjoyed that. I enjoyed sort of revisiting that, but at the same time, it was sort of a stamp on me that I was not supposed to be doing baseball all along, that softball was the sport I was supposed to be in. So yeah, it's really neat to hear how all these people kind of find themselves in softball and then, never look back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of give us a brief overview from there. You had a few jobs in Tuscaloosa and then start the program at James Clemens and then Wallace and UAB, right?
Yeah, so my classes wound down at Shelton. You can only transfer so many from a JUCO, and it was time to transfer to Alabama. And so that was sort of the goal all along. But now my sights were on softball. And so my girlfriend, who is now my wife, but my girlfriend at the time, her roommate was a player at Alabama at the time. And so I go over to her apartment one day and I say, "Hey, I need you to get me a meeting with Coach Murphy." And the girl kind of laughs at me and she says, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to work for him." And she laughs even harder and says, "He's not going to hire you." And she said, what would he hire you to do? I said, "I don't know, scrub the toilets, wash the uniforms, whatever. I just, I'm addicted to this thing now. And I want to be around it." And so, she goes, "Okay, whatever." And so the next thing I know, I get to meet with Coach Murphy, but he very nicely tells me that he has nothing for me, that, he's very sorry and he would keep me in mind. And so, I was not in a position to not work and not earn some money. So I had to pick up a few part-time jobs and getting ready to transition to Alabama. And towards the late part of the summer, he calls me back, asks me, can I come back and meet with him again, that something had changed on his support staff and he could use someone. And so I jumped at it, and was sort of a tryout deal in the fall. It was one of those, hey, we'll see how it goes in the fall. And if you do a good job, we'll see what we can do for you in the spring. And so I guess I sweet talked him good enough. He kept me around for the spring, and man, what a ride that was. Traveling to super regionals in Seattle, Washington, and, hosting supers the second year, going to the Women's College World Series in 2008. And Karen, I think that's the first time I had a conversation with you. As best I can remember, I sat in the stands with you at Oklahoma City on like a practice day or something, and you and I chit-chatted there. And I remember thinking, man, I'm talking to Karen Johns. This is a big deal. And we may have had one before then, but that's the most memorable first one to me. And wow, how the Women's College World Series has changed since you and I sat in those stands. But we moved on from there and had a good experience at Alabama. Then Coach Murphy I'm sorry, guys, that's my email going crazy. Coach Murphy recommended me for a high school job there in town. I started at the smallest classification in high school softball in our state. So it was at Holy Spirit a year. We won our area tournament and our regional tournament for the first time in school history, and went to the state tournament for the first time in school history. The crosstown private school rival, American Christian Academy, hired me over the summer on the recommendation of Sarah Patterson, actually. So I think Coach Patterson had went to Coach Murphy and said, "Hey, we're looking for a new coach. Can you recommend someone?" And again, Murph gift wraps me a opportunity and went over there, and we were fortunate enough to win our area and win our region. And so my next softball stop was the biggest 6A school in our state at the time was Bob Jones. And they're splitting into two, at the time, 6A schools. That's how big it was. And so I started the program at James Clemens. The spring of 13 was our first spring that we had a team, and that was a very challenging spring. We had no juniors, no seniors, and we were thrown right into Class 6A, which at the time there was no 7A. And so, I'm 15 minutes down the road from Sparkman, Bob Jones, Athens, all of those powerhouses are within a 20-25 minute drive of my school. And so you can imagine how challenging that was out of the gate. We transitioned from 6A to 7A when that comes along, and Wallace comes along. We have a great 6-year run there. It had a tradition of winning, so I can't take credit for, building something that wasn't already there, but we certainly thought we sort of picked up where it was left off and maybe took another step forward. And so, here I am now at UAB. And if you had told me, 10, 12 years ago, I'd be the head softball coach at UAB, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah. Karen, do you remember this conversation with AJ at the World Series?
Oh yeah, I remember it clearly because those were interview days / practice days. So teams at the World Series come and they practice, and they either interview before or after their practices. I think mostly before. And so yeah, I remember chit-chatting with him there. I remember when I had to coach at Hewitt the one year, we played against each other, I think at the Bob Jones tournament. So I got another opportunity to talk to him there, and you could see his passion. And I was laughing when you were sharing that story because AJ, I feel like you're like a brother from another mother, because I went kicking and screaming into softball too. My dad said I was too old to play baseball with the boys and that he was going to move me to softball. And he actually drove me to Connecticut to watch Joan Joyce play. And that's what sold me.
That's a good start.
Yeah,
start.
incredible. And Joyce Compton, who ironically I ended up playing for in college, was the first baseman on that team. So I was the same way. I was like, are you kidding? I'm going to play for the Yankees. I'm not going to go play softball. Yeah. So I know the feeling. I know that, like, oh gosh, I'm going to go do softball now. But yeah, and then it's hook, line, and sinker. So yes, I have followed him the whole time, the whole way through, and just remarkable what you've done. And I know you're going to do great things at UAB. No question.
I appreciate that. I just think that it's a very, my path to here is extremely unorthodox. I remember telling my now wife when we were dating, I turned down the opportunity, or I say opportunity, I don't guess it was ever offered me, the possibility of going to the University of Arkansas as a graduate assistant at one point. And because she and I had become pretty serious, we were about to be engaged. She still had a year of school left. And I remember telling her, if I turn this down, that probably sort of shuts off the college path. At some point, most of the time, you sort of get branded a high school coach or a JUCO coach or, whatever. You either take this path as a graduate assistant and then a second assistant, a first assistant, and sort of climb that ladder. Or that's just probably not going to be in the cards for you. But it was always something I wanted to do. I just didn't know if I had the right path to it. So I am, a unicorn, I guess, sitting where I'm sitting. But I am so incredibly grateful for the sport of softball and the people involved in our sport, like you guys and Coach Murphy and Coach Garris, that just continue to promote it and put it at the forefront and give people like me opportunities.
Yeah, no, it's really cool stuff. I've told a couple people this, but when I went to Coach Murphy's practice at Alabama a few weeks ago, a lot of things clicked because I finally got to see some of the smaller detailed things that Murph will do at practices that I'm like, I see now, like I've seen AJ do this at practice. I've seen a handful of other guys that have been managers that have picked up on all these things that they've seen, the way that it's done at Alabama, and they've tried to replicate it. So kind of
listen, I am not ashamed to tell you I'm a thief. I will steal from people in a heartbeat. And that's what we all are. We're all just mosaics of, people and experiences that we've had and had the opportunity to be around. And certainly Coach Murphy's been a big one.
Yeah. So tell me some of those benchmarks that you have. Like, I mean, even the day I went out and saw you guys preseason practice at UAB, and there's so much talk these days about culture and what that word means. And everybody talks about creating a culture. But just personally, one of the things that I was always really impressed with seeing your teams at Wallace State, when you've got a team that's 24 deep, like there's just a human nature to the back 10 on that roster or whatever to be kind of disengaged and not seeming to have a great time because they're not the ones starring. But at Wallace, I mean, like the whole dugout just seems to be having a great time. And so now you're coming to UAB and trying to create something similar. And I feel like just, from my perspective, culture is not something that is just a cliche or a word that you throw around, but it seems to be something that you're really intentional about trying to create something.
Well, To be honest with you, it's sad what I'm going to say, but I believe there's a lot of truth to it. Because of the society that we live in, it's somewhat of a brainwash job. You basically have to bring them in here in a lot of cases and show them, and it's the truth. I'm not, when I say brainwash, that has a negative, I guess, tag to it, but it's really just opening their eyes to the fact that we're not going to be consistently successful until our culture is right, until we value the things about the team and the team success before we worry about ourselves. And one of the first things Coach Murphy says to his players that I picked up on that I thought was huge is the sooner you realize it's not all about you, the better off we're all going to be. You're going to be, we're going to be, and there's a lot of different ways to say that. I think now he says Mudita, and that's basically another version of it's not all about you. And our world, our society, and even the culture in general of our sport, the culture of a roster of 10 or 11 and everybody's getting to play, and that's a lot different from what you're actually going to experience on a Division I roster, or on a college roster, and sometimes even on a varsity high school team roster. And that's really a big piece of continual success, is just having everyone pull the rope the same direction on a continual basis. And so, that's probably one of the biggest things I took from Coach Murphy. And I'll be honest with you, I think it is the key. I do think it's important that I help these kids grow as softball players. But I think that if we're going to find success, then my ultimate job as the leader of the organization is to cultivate and develop and protect and be on guard for this culture of, hey, we're about UAB softball finding success, and what can we do every day to serve that program and do for that team. And I don't think that's any different than, the UAB hospital over here, a Fortune 500 company, the Express oil change down the road. If the culture of the team that's responsible for the results is not good, you're not going to continuously get good results. And so that is a big part of, what I do, or what I try to do. And I think that if you'll just look around at the people that find success over and over and over again, that's always the foundational piece.
Yeah. So, Karen, you got anything for AJ before we let him hop off here?
The question is, what brings you the most joy in coaching softball, and what is the hardest part about coaching softball?
The most joy is, and again, this is going to sound cliche, but this is absolutely the truth. It's the relationships. I still hear from people that I coached in 2009 that are now their moms and their employees and their wives, and getting a wedding invitation from someone, or getting a picture of their first child, and knowing I'm in that first text group that got that picture. That means the world to me. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you, and every hair on my arm is standing up as I'm saying those things. Softball is going to come and go, but man, and I mean season by season, but one of the things I am absolutely most thankful for is just the people that softball has allowed me to cross paths with. I'll never be able to express how grateful I am for that, and for the young ladies and their families that I've gotten to know. And so that is easy answer, first choice for what brings me the most joy. Probably the most difficult part for me is that my window with the team is so small, and now I have gotten to the 4-year level, and so now I'm going to get to experience that 4-year deal again, sort of like I did in high school. At JUCO, that was tough. You bring these kids in and you pour so much into them, and as freshmen they're reserved and trying to figure you out, you're trying to figure them out, and then as sophomores, you finally get in sync, and then boom, they're out the door. Mm-hmm. And I expect some of that will still be the case here at UAB. Is like our current seniors, I'll only get one ride with them, and so for me personally, probably selfishly, the biggest challenge is being able to let them go and move to a different, I guess, chapter of my relationship with them, because, we do coach them hard, but we love them hard too. And that's just who I am. And I'm speaking on behalf of my staff. And look, I want to make sure I mention them before I get off of here. I hit the jackpot on my coaching staff. I know a lot of people that just sort of kind of have to take what they can get when they get their first D1 job. And, I really didn't get this job until early July. And a lot of times that carousel has already been running for quite some time by mid-July. But I if I didn't do anything else right here so far, I have knocked it out of the park with the staff. Sally Beth Birch was by my side for 3 years at Wallace State and did a phenomenal job. A lot of the success that, everyone saw across the country in my last 3 years was a lot in part to the work that she helped me do the first 3 years. And she didn't get a lot of credit for it because she had transitioned on to Jacksonville State. But I wouldn't rather have anybody else in the dugout next to me than Sally Beth Birch. And then Molly Hanson, what I knew about her was that she was a stud at Shelton, and then Samford. And what a phenomenal human being. And so, I think that's going to be a big part of our success at UAB is when these recruits come on campus and come to our camps and come on visits and stuff. I think the very first thing they're going to see is these are just good humans. They value you as a person way above valuing you as a player. And I think we can show you better than we can tell you. I think everybody says some version of that, but I think that it just radiates from those two people in particular. And so that's really exciting for me. And I didn't want this to get away from me without me mentioning them. I couldn't be more grateful to have them next to me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I can attest that both of them are pretty cool people in their own right. Absolutely. Yeah. AJ, last thing I've got for you, I get a lot of players and parents will reach out to me and ask, what do I do? Like, I've got my daughter has aspirations to play college softball, and they're trying to figure out what level that they think they should play at, and they're trying to figure out what's the best way to go about school ball, travel ball, all that stuff. Just from your perspective as the UAB head coach, what is a piece of advice that you could give to any of those hopeful future college players?
Well, I think that if you don't find somewhere that you're confident you can be happy at, it's not going to work out anyway. So my first piece of advice is have number one on your list of these boxes have to be checked before I can say I might wind up going to school there. I would say have number one be, am I confident I can go there and be happy? I am a big believer in that. I was a big believer in that at Wallace State. I used to tell kids all the time, make sure whatever you decide, and even if it's not us, whatever you decide, my biggest piece of advice is go be happy somewhere. Don't try to please your parents and their expectations and their dreams and your grandparents and your travel ball coach and, all your high school coach, and go somewhere you can be happy, because if that's not possible and that's not going to happen, it's not going to work out anyway. You're not going to be, when we had our end of the fall meetings here, the first question, I wish I had my clipboard, it's over there, but the first question on my clipboard I asked them was, what can we do as a coaching staff to help you be the best version of you? What do you need from us? And it really wasn't softball related. It was the best version of you. What do you, and some of their answers were, sometimes I need to be kicked in the rump. I need someone to really drive me. And then some of their answers were, I need encouragement. I'm the one that needs to be patted on the back sometimes when I don't act like it. And so what do you need to do? You need to find out where you can go be happy. Then you need to try to get on those campuses and create relationships with those staffs, kind of feel the vibe between the staff and how they communicate and stuff with their players, how their players communicate and stuff with their coaching staffs, and see if that's something that you think you could go and do and be a part of. I think the on-campus camps are huge. I just do. I think there's just something different about getting on that home field in front of that staff and feeling the vibe on that campus. So my biggest two pieces of advice are: number one, find somewhere you think you can go and be happy. Number two, get on campus, express unequivocally to that staff that that's somewhere that you've done your homework on, that's somewhere you want to be. And then, make sure they see evidence of that by you coming to their camps and wanting to be a part of the opportunities that they offer for you to get in front of them.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. Karen, anything else for AJ before we let him hop off and go get practice done this afternoon?
I think I'm good. And I really appreciate hearing all your good stuff, Coach, and good luck. We'll be out there watching you. Obviously, I can't come this weekend, but we got some SEC competition coming in. I'd like to jump out there and see you guys. And good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it. We played our first of 9 SEC games on our schedule last night, and we're looking forward to that. It draws big crowds, and obviously it's a great measuring stick for us. They're gonna expose those places that you really need to improve, and so I'm looking forward to it. I know our team is. I think the community is, and once again, I just want to say to both of you, thank you. I think that we're all going to turn around here in the next year or two and go, man, you remember when they did that first episode with Murph, and watch this thing grow, and this is just going to be another step in growing our great sport. Man, how cool is our sport in our state right now? I was thinking this morning on the way in, from high school to JUCO to NAIA to D2 to Division I. It's incredible, and you guys have so much to do with that, because without things like this, some of that doesn't get publicized. And so thank you so much, Kyle. I hope you know how I feel about you. I try to tell you every time you come out. I appreciate you. And then Karen, I appreciate everything you've done for our sport and continue to do it at multiple levels. So can't say thanks enough.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you, AJ. I've gotten a great joy of getting to see your teams and getting to know you personally over the last few years. And you're one of the friendships that I count very highly on throughout the people that I've gotten to know in this sport. So I appreciate that very much. Today's headline interview brought to you by AJ Doherty Softball Camps. Like AJ was saying, getting on campus at Mary Bowers Field at UAB, a great place to be. So AJ, you've got some camps coming up in the summer. Dates will be out soon.
Yeah, I would say over the next couple of weeks, you can go to AJDaughertySoftballCamps.com and you'll be able to see it mapped out, from those multi-day camps I was mentioning earlier to team camp opportunity for high school teams and travel ball teams, and then probably go ahead and start putting out some prospect camp dates for the late summer, early part of the fall as school is getting started. And I think we got something really special cooking here at UAB, and we're working very, very hard to make sure it gets off the ground the right way. So would really appreciate having you out, and like I said earlier, we can show you better than we can tell you. Come out and check us out.
Absolutely. So yeah, go out and see UAB softball this season, and that is head coach AJ Dougherty on the Four Corners Softball Pod.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Really want to thank AJ for coming on. Lots of great insight. Cool to hear his story. He's got a really awesome story, and anybody that's out there thinking that, like, hey, it would never be possible to advance to a certain level of the game, AJ is living proof that it's possible, and now he's doing a great job at UAB and certainly will. So really appreciate him coming on. Let's dive into our next thing, the Four Corners segment. Let's get started with first base. Karen, you were down in Clearwater for the TaxAct Clearwater Invitational last week. Saw a lot of great softball. I know it was a lot to digest, but what did you think of what you saw?
Wow, a lot of great softball, a lot of home runs, 89 home runs on the weekend. That ball was flying out of the yard. And it was really interesting too. Another weird stat from that, there was 58 wild pitches thrown, which is really intriguing. Man. My theory on this is that because everybody's hitting so many home runs, everybody's trying to learn a drop ball, and I think I think it might be affecting some of these pitchers a little bit. But that was an unusual amount of wild pitches that I had seen, and but just some great softball. Oklahoma State, UCLA really stood out, like top tier offensive power, depth in pitching, and then really there were so many other good ones too. Alabama, Duke. Alabama finished strong. They lost a tough one to UCLA to open up the weekend, and it was a really tough, hard-fought battle. But then they came back, won the rest of their games, and finished the nightcap on Sunday night. Montana Fouts, a one-hitter, one solo shot, getting the complete game win, which is, I thought, a huge boost for her mentally, for the team, for their confidence. And so it was a lot of fun to watch that and be a part of that game behind the scenes. And but just some really good softball players. Oklahoma State was very, very impressive, the depth, and UCLA's depth in their lineup hitting. Wow. Just their freshmen had like 18 of their 27 RBIs. They're three freshmen, and their depth is incredible. So you're going to see some of those teams for sure really contending at the end of the season with the Oklahomas and some of the other top level teams.
Yeah, that's awesome. How was the weather down there? Because I know when we talked last time, we were thinking, hey, that Thursday that opened up the high school season, the whole state shut down just about for severe weather. So hopefully you had it a little bit better down in Clearwater.
We had it great. We had about an hour delay on Friday night with some just weird, misty, windy rain. It wasn't even heavy rain, but it was just enough to disrupt the pitchers where they really couldn't hold the ball. But outside of that, it was absolutely gorgeous, sunny, warm. The teams really got to enjoy every minute of every game. So that was a lot of fun. Can't complain about the weather at all.
Yeah, awesome. What's on your schedule as far as college games coming up? You got any softball?
Yeah, there's so much. There's a lot of softball coming up. We have so many games on the app and on ESPN. It's a little bit slower right in this time frame, other than the plus games on ESPN, because of the basketball. You know, we have women's NCAA, men's NCAA, so those programming windows shrink a lot right now because of the postseason. But once we kick about mid-March, we'll go, and we have a ton of good SEC matchups, Pac-12 matchups, Big 12 matchups. We'll probably be doing a lot from home initially, so which for me is exciting because that means I can work an SEC game on a Friday night, a Big 12 game on a Saturday, and a Pac-12 on a Sunday. So how can I complain, right?
Awesome. It's
not the same field, but it's still really cool to be able to see that level of play all the time. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. The next thing, let's talk about second base now. I want to give a shout out to the Gulf South Conference. There's a handful of Gulf South programs in the state of Alabama that always do a really good job. UAH and AUM. So the University of Alabama in Huntsville, Auburn University in Montgomery, they both start out with conference sweeps last week. And West Alabama also took 2 out of 3 in their opening series. You also throw in Montevallo, who's gonna be competitive this year too. So love to see the Gulf South. I'll hopefully get to check out a couple of their series this year, and then their conference tournament, which is in Oxford, and that's a lot of fun to be a part of as well. So looking forward to seeing how that shakes out as well.
It's so, it's so funny because there's so much tradition in that conference in this state, and how good West Alabama and UAH and, Auburn, Montgomery, all these schools are so good at softball and the level of play. And so many of these rosters are filled with our own kids from right here in Alabama. So it's really exciting, and super excited for the starts that they got off to. UAH 9-3. I mean, and you just look at some of their numbers. It's like their power numbers, so much fun. So I too look forward to trying to get out to see some of these teams play when I'm not working the other games. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah. Special shout out to Katie Bracken. She was the pitcher of the week in the Gulf South Conference. She's an Alabama kid as well, graduating from Austin High School last year. So yeah, like I said, that'll be a fun conference to keep up with. And now, Karen, this is going to be an interesting one for you. Third base here. I've seen a similar play twice in the past few days, seeing softball. But one play, let me give you the situation. Pop up beyond second base. Second baseman and center fielder are both running towards the ball. The second baseman tries to catch it. Ball deflects off of her glove, but the center fielder is there and makes the grab before the ball hits the ground. Well, the other team has a runner on third. That runner tags and scores. So what's the rule on the tag there from your experience?
Okay, so the rule on the tag, the official rule is the initial contact of the glove. So as soon as that second baseman, that ball hit that glove, that runner is eligible to tag up and go.
Right.
She does not have to wait for the ball to be secured.
Yep.
So that's the ruling. We too, I had that play. I did some games for Mexico opening weekend, had the same kind of play. Shortstop, but it hit so hard it went opposite direction and went back to the third baseman. So it was crazy, super crazy.
Yeah, and so the game that I saw this at, the runner that was on third took off as soon as the ball hit the second baseman's glove, but she was long gone by the time the center fielder caught the ball. So that caused a big conversation. Ultimately, the umpires ruled that what you said, that she tagged on initial contact, and that was the way that play should have been ruled. So I'm glad they got that one right.
Well, we played in that Leeds tournament the one year I coached at Hewitt Trustful, and that's how we lost in the finals because Taylor Bashirs was at third base. She tags up to score the winning run, and they called her out. And I went over to the umpire and I said, I just want to let you know you're wrong. And you're going to need to know this because I'm forgiving in February. I'm not going to forgive you in May. And he started laughing. Then like 2 weeks later, he comes to Hewitt to umpire a game. And he said, Coach, I want to apologize. I got in and I called my crew chief that night. And he told me, yeah, I was wrong. And I said, sure. I say, but you know what? That's what we're here for. We're all going to learn. So sometimes the umpires don't even know the rules because there's so many of them, right?
Yeah, there are a ton of them. But thankfully, in this situation, they did know the deal. So it sparked a lot of very interesting conversation because that's one of those where you've got a lot of people that think they know what the rule should be or can be, but nobody actually knows what it really is. So it was good to have the umpires make the ruling, and then we actually saw another umpire afterwards that was able to confirm that, like, yeah, here's what the rule says. It's that initial contact. So if you see that at a game that you're at this spring, you will now know that rule. It's the first contact, not necessarily the person that catches the ball on the tag situation. All right, well, for home plate today, I kind of want to run back the last week plus of some games that I've seen and just kind of give a little quick hit from what I've seen so far. There's still a lot of winter sports going on that I've had to go to, but I've been able to see some softball in the meantime. The first one I got out to, I went and saw Calhoun College play Itawamba College out of Mississippi. Itawamba's got a few players from Alabama. It was good to see them, and obviously Calhoun's got a bunch of Alabama players. Two JUCO teams that I think are going to be pretty competitive. They split a doubleheader, two really good games, good pitching. Saw a few big flies, so that was fun. So if you get a chance to see Calhoun or Itawamba this year, you'll see two pretty good teams. Then last weekend, I went and saw the Red and Blue Classic. Vestavia Hills hosted a big tournament that they haven't done this in several years. Schedules and calendars, they just it's cyclical, but Vestavia hosted a big tournament, got a lot of really good teams. It was impressive to see Sparkman win the thing. They beat Hartselle in the final, 3-1, a couple extra innings. It was a really, really good and competitive game. And now, depending on which side you root for, Hartselle thinks they think they should have won the game. There was a bang tag play that did not go in their favor, but Sparkman made the plays in the following inning to win the game. And both of those teams are really good. Vestavia Hills and Hoover were also in the semifinals. John Simmons did a great job putting that thing together at Vestavia. It was a really good opening weekend of the high school season to see all of them together. And then this past week, I saw Brooks. Brooks, a really good little 4A team that people in some of the central and southern parts of the state don't know a whole lot about, but Brooks is a really good 4A team. They made the state tournament last year, so they challenged themselves with their schedule this year. They came down to Hoover, played a doubleheader, and Hoover won a pair of one-run games. They won 5-4, and then a wild 9-8 10-inning game. Hoover's Kai Davis got the walk-off hit. Just a really good 2 ball games there. Got to give credit. Brooks, they were down to their last strike in that game, and Bailey Darby hits a 2-run homer to give them the lead, and then they went back and forth the rest of the way. And Hoover ultimately wins both of those games. So good stuff there. If you haven't seen Abby Herndon pitch from Brooks, she's an Ole Miss commit, and she's really good. She pitched 17 innings that day and was hard to handle. And then Hoover on the other side, Trey Matlock, his first year as head coach. They're so deep. They don't have the studs that you hang on to, but man, they've got 1 through 12, 13 that they feel good about. And that Hoover team is going to be a problem this year. And then one last game I'll tell you about. I saw Austin beat Gardendale 7-5. Gardendale jumped out early, 5-0, and then Austin just chipped away and made the plays and got it done. It was a cool game because a team like Austin, they had so much success last year, but graduated a good bit, and they're kind of trying to fill out what they got in Blake Gray's second year there, and they were able to rally and get some key hits, which is always really awesome to see. So that's all I've seen recently, Karen. I know you've seen a lot too, and we're only going to see more as we get going, right?
Yes, and I'm super impressed with the level of hitting and the level of approach in hitting at the high school level here in Alabama now, going back from the very inception, the first time I've seen it till now, and the depth of hitting in these lineups and just the level of professionalism that these kids take in their approach at the plate. It's really challenging to get these orders out 3-4 times in a game for these pitchers. And most high school staffs aren't that deep. You're not going to have 3 or 4 arms that are going to be able to get this quality of hitters out. And so I have a lot of respect for teams like Hoover and Vestavia who go out and play those schedules early, test themselves. The kid from Brooks, she's good. She's going to an SEC school. I would schedule her 5 times if I could, right? Yeah. Because it builds your confidence level on how you're going to approach good pitching when it comes to state tournament time. Because once you get to Oxford, everybody's ace is good. So you have to be prepared every game to face a really good pitcher. But just super impressed. I follow your stories when I can't get to the games. I follow the school stories. I follow the local papers, and just super impressed with the level of what these kids are going up to the plate with.
Yeah, and I've talked about this with several people. It's so interesting. Last year seemed like we knew going into the season it was going to be the year of the pitcher. There were so many senior pitchers that were D1 level players that you knew when you lined up like this game is going to be a pitcher's duel, and so many of those pitchers have graduated, and that's opened up a lot of not only opportunity for young pitchers that are ready to burst onto the scene, but like you said, it's hard now because these offenses that a lot of these really good teams have are impressive.
I think the power is the most impressive to me. 15 years ago, you just didn't see the ball leaving the park like it is now. And these kids are, they're driving the ball at the yard. And it's just so neat to see, but it does make it a challenge for these young pitchers. When you're 14 and you're facing 17-year-olds, in that 3, 4, 5 hole spot, it's hard to get them out. So it's a good learning experience right now for these young pitchers, but by the end, the cream always rises to the top, as they say, and they'll come through towards the end.
Absolutely. Great Four Corners segment there. I want to take this time to thank First Choice Properties for supporting the podcast this year. If you're looking for a place to rent, why wouldn't you work with someone local? First Choice Properties is exactly that. They've got available properties in Jefferson, Shelby, St. Clair, and Tuscaloosa counties here in the central part of the state. They've got no deposit options. And if you want to see a full list of their available properties, you can go to their website, firstchoiceproperties.com. We'll put that up on the screen as well. You can also give them a call, 205-433-9811. That's 205-433-9811. First Choice Properties, some great people to work with there as well. Want to get to our final big thing. What's Barry thinking today? Barry Brake doing some cool stuff. He was down in Gulf Shores last weekend supporting his Wallace State Lions. They were in the Sun Chief Classic, which was a junior college tournament put on by Coastal. It looks like he caught up with a few other JUCO coaches while he was down there. So let's check out and see what he was up to.
Hey, right here at Four Corners Softball. We're down here at Gulf Shores today, walking around talking to some folks. We've got Caitlin Clark, pitching coach at Snead State Community College, former Gardendale Rocket. Thought I'd talk with her just a minute and see what it's like. Well, the question I've got for her is, Caitlin, what's it like transitioning from a player to now a coach?
Transitioning to a player to a coach now has been a huge transformation for me, going to playing not even 2 years ago to now coaching and seeing just all the different aspects of the game and really what goes on behind the scenes that as a player you don't think of as much.
Hey, that's fantastic. Hey, we wish you a lot of luck this year, you and your team. Hey, we'll be back a little bit later for more sights, sounds, and maybe a couple more coaches or players down here in Gulf Shores for Four Corners Softball.
Thank you.
Hey, back here at Four Corners Softball Podcast, Coach Clark from Snead State has one more interview she's going to do now. We'll give a couple of questions here and see what's going on in Gulf Shores.
All right, this is Coach Hannah Strength Power from Snead State. She is our hitting and fielding coach. And Hannah, what do you think about the Junior College Conference this year?
I think it's going to be highly competitive, but we're definitely ready for a battle.
We are. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, back here at Four Corners Softball Podcast, I'm with Corey Benson from Marion Military. Her dad is the head coach of Marion Military. She is the assistant. What a privilege that is to work for Jeff Benson. Hey, Corey, how's things going this season?
It's good. We have a good team. We got 7 sophomores and a lot of freshmen, but they're playing really good, so we're excited for the next 2 years.
What's it like to have your dad as a boss?
Well, if you know him, you would know that answer, but it's fun. I get to spend every day with him. I've spent a lot of it with him.
What about the popularity of softball growing in the Southeast and across the country?
I think it's great. I think over the last 10 years it's grown a lot, especially in the JUCO. So being able to be a part of it's fun and seeing it grow is great.
I appreciate your time. Have fun here in Gulf Shores. Thank you. Here at Four Corners Softball Podcast, I've got Jeff Benson now, Corey Benson's dad, who is the head coach of Marion Military Softball. Hey, Coach, how's your season going this year? And what about JUCO softball in the state of Alabama?
It's up and down. We've had some pretty good games. We've played some good teams, had some good wins. Have a great freshman class. Unreal. It's the best we've ever had as a freshman class. Great kids. They do everything correct way, make good grades. It's a lot more fun.
What about the Shark Tooth necklace you got on up there?
I pretty much, when I wake up in the morning, I pretty much piss excellence. And I got me one of these at Shacky. And what's the name of some shack restaurant we ate at? It was great.
That's outstanding. What do you think about the tournament down here in Gulf Shores?
Tournament is great. It is an outstanding venue that we play in a lot of years and great competition. It's fun as everything.
How's the golf game?
I haven't played in a while, but I'm sure it's pretty good because, as I say, when I wake up in the morning, I pretty much piss excellent.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate your time and good luck to you this year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing stuff, as always, from Barry Brake. If you've got his number, give him a call and tell him what you want him to do next time, because he loves suggestions. You can probably find him in a softball field somewhere near you. But yeah, no, really appreciate Barry doing that. It's a lot of fun. Karen, we've already had a bunch of softball. We've got a bunch of it ahead. So yeah, this has been a great second episode. What else is coming down the pipe for you here next week or so?
Well, this weekend I'm off. I'm going to enjoy some time with the family and visit our daughter. And then I don't recall my schedule off the top of my head, but we have a bunch coming up in the near future. We're still in the non-conference schedule, so we got a couple more weeks of, going through some of that and some non-conference matchups, which are going to be fun. And then once we get through this month in the mid-March, it's all on in the conference tournament. But I'd like to get out and see some of the locals. I want to get out and see UAB play. I want to get out and see Sanford. I want to get out and see all the the different teams in our area right now, and then hopefully catch some high school games.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Well, we want to express our appreciation to you guys for joining and listening in again. This has been the second episode of the Four Corners Softball Podcast. Any ideas, thoughts, concerns, criticisms can be directed to me at Kyle Parmley on Twitter. And wanted to also thank Ellison Laney for helping us with the podcast. She does a great job. She's a proud product of the Central Red Devils in Phoenix City, who we talked a little bit about last week. But Karen, we appreciate it as always. Have a great week, everybody, and we will catch you next time.